Hello, YouTube modeling community. It's Rusty Rotor. This will be part 3 of the aqua rod race team. We'll talk again a little bit here, and then we'll get into the build. I had to off camera do quite a bit to the van body, as I couldn't film me doing it, so this gives me the chance to kind of show you where we're at and what we had to do, and just to let you know, this segment is all about the frame, the floor pan, and everything, getting that cleaned up. We're going to get the firewall mounted and the doghouse cover for the engine mounted. That way that kind of holds it all. Then we'll dry fit that into the body, and then that'll, if we have time, we'll get to the start getting suspension parts on. Again, I do want a subtle rake. I don't want a huge rake because the tires aren't real wide, and I can't find any pad printed tires that are wider that will match. We have that. And if I added decals, then they would look really off from the front tires and the tires on the trailer. So we're going to give it just a subtle rake, and nothing major. Just give it that nice little kind of hot rod look. This has all been sanded down with 400 grit. That's our first stage. We will still have to come back and work on this and bring it up to 3,000. But we are really smooth. But 400 is kind of rough, and we don't want any sand marks in our paint, because primarily I do not, as a rule, unless it's a 3D printed body, we'll use filler primer. I like to use a real fine primer, and I do the first coat, and then I can kind of wait and see if I have any flaws that I overlooked, I missed, anything just like you guys would do. We'll start here with the sunroof. So I worked on those areas that we had indicated, and the glass does fit pretty good. Still a little snug, but I've got this so rounded off, and you can kind of see. I don't want to fool with it anymore. That tight fit is good. Once we put our glue down in here and we get it up in place, that's going to help kind of hold it. It'll stay in place on its own now. It's just, if you tweak it just a hair, it wants to pop out. So we won't do any more dry fitting of that, because we already know that it fits. We'll start here on the passenger side real quick. So you can see I had to go back through and scribe all the lines. The guide rail up here, it was very faint, so I had to carve that in to get that back. Some areas were pretty prominent, the other ones were really faint, so we got it all really prominent now. And yeah, I slipped a few times and caught it up here, but I think I've sanded it down pretty good to get rid of those scratch marks. We scribed around the doors, the track, both sides, just to kind of give that three-dimensional look once it's all painted and everything. Around back, we had to scribe that completely out. There was no detail, just to show that rain lip like a van would have, and the doors. We did get a little heavy in here, but once we get done sanding, that should finish that out pretty good. If not, I'll get back on it hard, and we'll kind of blend it in to where it's not so noticeable like it is now, because this side went really good. This was a little more prominent, so be aware if you buy this kit, make sure you look over real good, because the detail is faint. And then we did the doors down through here, and I kind of widened this just a hair, because that's never really a tight fit anyways. There's a little, like a 1/4 inch gap between the doors. So we did achieve that pretty good. Scribed down through here, we got rid of all of our mold lines, panel lines that were sharp, so on and so forth. This was the hardest part. So you can see the rain gutter here, the lip of the roof of the van. That was up to here was good. Back through here there was nothing. So I had to etch that out. Keep etching, sanding. I slipped a few times, put scratches in it, cut marks, so I had to really stand on it hard to get, you know, most of that out. So hopefully we got enough that it's not going to matter. But yeah, we got it back. It follows the body line like it's supposed to. It looks really good. I hope this is showing up on camera, guys. And then we got this door re-scribed out all the way down. We got rid of all of our mold lines on our fenders. We cleaned up all of our flashing all through the wheel wells, and we re-scribed the front here. That was gone. There was nothing there, so we went around it. So now we got a really prominent roof line, which, you know, in hindsight, I guess didn't even have to really worry about it. Again, it's not a show thing, but right now it's cutting out to be show worthy. I still got to wash the body. There's a lot of debris down in the things. It's not going to pick it up very well, but there's some dust down in the groove lines. But we don't want to etch anymore because we're not super thin, but we don't want to get to the point where we actually cut through and then we have a light gap or whatever you want to call it through the body. I mean, we could easily patch it from the inside since we're not really doing much in here. But again, so that gives you a kind of, instead of you wondering, well, what happened to this step? That's why. I tried to do this on camera, and I was just making too many mistakes. I'm not real good at trying to film and cut. I do apologize for the very first video. In and out of frame. I've got a different mount now that I'll be using to hold the camera than what I was using. And it's kind of hard when you're just concentrating, focusing on what you're doing to, you know, stay within frame with the camera. But we will get better, guys. So again, you know, that's where we're at. You know, we got inside our windows and around the windshield. Everything's nice and smooth. You know, like I said, we're at 400, so we'll step up to 600, and we'll focus our attention a lot back here to try to blend this in. If not, we're going to open this side up a hair more to match this side, and then blend it all in so it's not as visual. And then we'll bring this all up, staying off of our emblems up here and, you know, fine detail. That way we don't sand them down. But bring this all up to 3000. That way then it's ready to be washed. We'll let it dry. We'll come back through all the cracks, make sure we got all the dust and debris out of them, and then we'll be set for primer on this. So just to, you know, get you kind of caught up to where we're at. Again, this video, I hope, you know, you take something from it. You know, get the kit, go back and build your kit along with this series. I like doing that sometimes if it's a kit that I've always wanted to build, and, you know, I see somebody's building it and it's really, other than some things that I would change, is kind of in my wheelhouse. I'll build along with them and just keep rewinding, fast forward whatever I need to do, and skip to the next video, and just kind of see how things are being done. It does help, especially if you're just starting out and you're not real familiar with what to look for or be aware of. That's kind of the purpose behind this video, as in for you guys to see how I actually do it. There will be some stuff that you'll miss because, like, again, there's stuff I can't do on camera. All the paint work, we've got a rig set up over there for that. You'll be, you know, other than noise of the air or spray booth and the compressor, you know, you'll get to see, you know, how I actually paint, primer, you know, clear coat, you know, all that stuff. So just a heads up, when we get to that step, remember, guys, I'm not real great on decals. But what we're going to do this time around is we're going to get one good coat on the body. And the boat too. I think it, if I'm not mistaken, yes, it runs along the lower part of the boat. So we'll get the lower part of the boat and the van body, one good coat of clear on it. We will come back and we're going to the areas where the decals go, we'll make sure that, you know, if they need it, we'll wet sand that down a little bit to make it as smooth as possible. We'll get our decals on, and then we'll put it in the dehydrator, and we'll get those dry, and then we'll come back and we'll finish clearing out. And this time around I'm going to use quite a bit more leveling thinner, I think, from past builds I've done, to see, especially like on the 32. I got it really close, so I know approximately how much I use for that. So I'm just going to add a little bit more, and we should get the clear to lay really, really nice. Minimal sanding is our goal, first and foremost. Because to me, you know, you start sanding on a body, and the next thing you know, you've burned through something, and then you've already got it cleared. And like I said, I don't buy 2 or 3 kits, that way I can just real quick prep another body and get it up to par and keep going with the build. I buy one and done. So I always, you know, a little more cautious, a little more weary of certain things that I do. But just like on the 58, where I did the tutorial on how I wet sanded and brought the body up, you know, clear coated, wet sanded, polished it out, you're going to get to see that again with this build, just only when we get to that step. And other than that, guys, I think that's about it. Did we cover? Yeah, so I mean, the first 2 videos was pretty much primarily the body, and you know, getting the tires and wheels that we're going to use for the rear van or trailer, the engine that we're actually going to use, and that. So now we're done with the body prep other than the final sand, which I will do on camera, but we're going to kind of be out of sequence as far as, you know, step by step. That probably will come in video 4, where we get the body all sanded down to where it's ready to go, basically for its first bath. If we have to, we'll wash it again. Just make sure we get all the dirt and sand, dust, and everything out of all the grooves and cracks. And then, oh, I guess that's what I was thinking of. We got the hood. I'll try to show you this. I got to put my glasses on for this, guys. So we notice we got the hood cut out, and like I said, you always have the hood you're going to use standing by. That way you can match everything before you know, sand it off. And like right now, we got some pretty good sand marks in this, so bringing it back up is going to be key to keep all these parts nice and smooth. It's going to be hard to see on camera. Let me see if I can turn it this way and kind of eyeball it the same way. We got our body gap just about perfect all the way around. I really couldn't ask for more than that. Like I said, we do have to do some final sanding, so I didn't go heavy, because if you do go heavy right out of the gate, you can make your gaps too big, and that ain't good either. So, but I'm really happy because the hood lines up. I test fitted the grill and bumper assembly in the front. Make sure we still fit. We do fit very well. The hood sits really nice down on it. Everything's level, nothing wonky. Yeah, you know. But you'll see, like I said, that'll probably be part 4, where we actually get into the final sanding on this, cleaning out all the grooves. You're not going to see me give it a bath because I have to go into a whole other part of the house to get to the water. But you know, we'll come back from that, and I'll show you how I dry it. I kind of do 2-step drying. I use lint-free paper towels. Dry it off really good where I can see water, and then I use the airbrush and spray air to get waters out of the cracks, and then I just kind of let it sit and air dry for a couple hours before I, you know, get ready to put primer on it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said, the next video will be the frame, the floor pan, the doghouse, and the firewall, and probably we'll get into some of the suspension, getting it clipped, cleaned up. When I cut parts away, I leave a little, and I sand down the extra or carve it off with a knife, and then sand. I like to assemble all my chassis before I spray. It's not hard to get in there and get black paint underneath, you know, in the corners. Just switching angles with your airbrush, and you know, you got a mist that comes out of the airbrush wide like that. And you're painting a little part, it's going to surround it and it's going to lay the paint. I know a lot of guys like to paint all the little parts individual, then glue it. You get glue up on your part, it'll take the paint right off, and then you got to touch that up, and it's a little cleaner if you paint it all as one. And I've seen several other guys do it that way and have good results. So, and I have good results. So, you know, you don't fix what's not broke. But it's your model. However you want to do it is, you know, that's up to you. Quick update. Go ahead and do it on this video. I don't want to make another video. Jenny's build. She did get the fender repainted, where we had to get the goober out of there, and all it was actually part of the plastic. It wasn't something she did or anything like that, but she did that. And like I said, I am helping her on certain areas. I did get the bed rails down for her, and she got those satin varnished, top and bottom. They are not in place. If you notice a little bow, it's because I just got them sitting in there for video purpose. But the bed looks really nice. You know, the tailgate does function. You can see how it's just kind of sitting in there. Because it's got to be clear coated before we install the beds. And then we'll clamp everything down. I got some special clamps. I don't know if I have any sitting over here or not. I don't. We'll get into those another day. They'll kind of go up and over and clear the body, and not mar the body, but yeah, hold the bed down where it needs to be. So yeah, you know, and they're labeled top, bottom. But I was telling her, you know, it's like, hey, you got the perfect kit that there's not a lot of suspension detail underneath there. There's a little bit, but you know, you want to have that real wood, because on a truck this age, you know, you'd be able to see, if you were underneath the truck, you'd see the wood slats. So Mark was gracious enough to send her a bed kit, and then she got online and we ordered her another one to do the bottom. And yeah, it looks really good. We may do a little more sanding on these and hit them again with another coat of satin, just to smooth them out, make them a little shinier. We may actually put a gloss, because this gloss is a water-based gloss, so it's not as glossy as like 2K. So I just wanted her to be able to see the difference in a finish here, and you know, draw your attention to the bed. It's not all glossy and all blends in together, and you know, the detail's different. It's still all glossy. We don't want that. We want the look of a real bed. So yeah, she's just got to get some more free time where she can get down here and work on this. So, you know, give me a thumbs up for Jenny. She don't have a channel or anything. You know, guys, show her some love. Let her know what you think on this video. I know on the first video there was no comments. You know, that is what it is. I still want you guys to comment. You know, through this build series, let me know what you're thinking. If you see something that I missed or something like that, you know, always shout it out. I love positive criticism. You know, if my eyes aren't the best, I could truly miss something and not be aware of it. Just don't say, oh, you blind bastard, you missed that. You know, that's negative. Nobody needs that. So yeah, so she's chugging along. The aqua rod. I'm enjoying this a little bit. Like I said, I'm working with different angles of the camera, and we're getting it there. So we're into this far enough. You guys stay tuned. I'll be back in just a second. I gotta get the camera set up a different angle, and we'll get into the frame, the floor pan, and all that. So be back in a minute, guys. All right, guys, gals, whoever's watching, we're back. Like I said, I need to forgot in the intro. Part 2 is the clarity is going to be still a little messed up, and it basically part 1 and part 2 is getting the body ready. As you can see here, all the hood underneath, you guys can kind of see. We got that all taken care of. No more black marker. Wheels and tires picked out. So I think I said in one it was going to be picking out the tires and wheels and something else. But just a little correction. The first part and the second part kind of covered picking out the tires and wheels, making sure that the, you guys can see that, the grill fit, the hood fit, everything lines up. We do still have final sanding to do on the body, which we will get to. But in today's video, will be all about the frame. So I normally don't mark this with marker unless it's like an old hot rod that's got a real chunky visible frame. We just know we can see, get it in frame here, that'd help. We got some little burrs here and there. We got that little piece there, so we need to do a little sanding, a little cleanup. So we're going to jump right into it. Get a K-knife. As you can see, I like to carve, so I come in and I remove most of the excess with my knife. And right here, there's a step down. Let's see, we'll get it up here so you guys can see it. There's a step down right from here up to here. We want that to blend in because, we got a little factory hump right there we don't want to mess with. So the way I do that, if I can get it to view, is I just do a little carving. And you can see now I just got a little lip. Get my finger out of the way. You can see it now. There we go. That'll stand out real easy. So we got that taken care of. We do have a line up here. So we'll work on that just a hair. Bring it down flush with the frame. Clean off excess out of our way. And that's acceptable. So now next we come up here. Make you dizzy trying to find it like me. We got the other step down from here up to the upper part of the frame. We just want to come through there. And we're kind of, I wouldn't know the exact angle, guys. Probably, by looking at it, probably about a 30-degree angle. And I come in here and I just want to, I'm just carving enough to blend so you guys can see. That way when I sand, that'll all be smooth. Like I said, this isn't a show truck. I don't plan on taking it to shows. We're just kind of cleaning the frame up. Anything that we can see. So I come over to the other side. We're going to get rid of our little tab. Up front here, we got a few other ones. And then we got to repeat in the front here, like we did on the other side, of the step down and always be careful. You can see I'm kind of cutting towards myself, so I don't want to go real fast. That way if I slip, I don't take off a finger. You always should carve away from yourself, cut away from yourself, that kind of thing. I mean, pretty much all of us know knife safety, I hope by now. This gets removed. You wouldn't believe the number of models, guys, when I was young that I saw that. Even though it said remove, I would think to myself, like, why remove? That's in there to hold the engine in, or, something like that. But then they're a lot harder to remove once you're done. Magnetic knife. Comes in handy sometimes. So then again, we got to look like on our A-frames. We can see that injection mold mark. So I just come in here real easy. We don't want to take too much and not enough. And just take, I know you guys can't see that. I'm sorry. There we go. On both of them. Just to the point where I can sand. It's faster doing it this way than it is trying to remove all the material and take a chance of burn the frame or anything like that. I see over here I didn't carve down enough, so give me just a second, guys. I'm going to hit that while I see it. There we go. And then I forgot to get the, on this side, get it here so you guys can see, they protrude outward. That's not right. So we want to remove that And just like that, we did. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. A little shaky, sorry, hit the camera. There we go. And then just come back and just shave. It's basically all you're doing, just getting rid of all the material you can to make your sanding a lot quicker and easier. And then we'll come back and we're going to look at our other brackets. There's a little bit of flash around the edge, so we're just going to scrape it, shave it, kind of clean it up. Even though, a lot of you guys out there just build to build, just have something to do. It's fun. It's rewarding. It's still good to pay attention to detail. You don't want to have, I'll give you an example. Chris at, can't remember the name of his channel now. He does mostly all reviews. So, in his case, he builds so many models a year. He just doesn't have enough time to clean totally every little part, make it look right, so on and so forth. So it's a, kind of pick your battles type thing. What do we work on? What do we want to emphasize or focus a lot of detail on? So, I get that, but I just, at the end of the day, I can't do that. I would rather not take enough work to be able to focus my time on other things. Okay, so now we'll get you back here in frame. You can see right there how that kind of bumps out. It shouldn't be. It should be straight across. So we're just going to rake our knife across it, keeping it flat against that frame rail, and there we go. We got it straightened out. And then we'll do the inside too. There's a little flash in there. These are all paying attention to detail, guys. These are, even if you're not real automotive knowledge, or you don't have a lot of knowledge and you're just building a model to have fun, still paying attention to these details is, key in having the overall good looking model. Doesn't matter if it's not perfect. It's just an overall good looking model. Everything's clean. The edges are clean. Now we can look down here and we see that mold line right here. It may be hard for you guys to see, but there's a mold line right here and on the other side. We want to clean that up in the same way. I just run my knife across it first, and it'll shave whatever I want off of that. And then the rest I'll sand. You just get in there with some sanding sticks or a little piece of sandpaper, and that'll smooth it right up. You don't have to use nothing real coarse, just probably like a piece of 600 or 800. And that's all I'm doing right now, guys, is just kind of cleaning up that other one. And we're going to go through and we're going to sand this area down. Right now, we're just kind of inspecting the frame. So right here, you can see, maybe, that's how jagged that edge looks. It's all flashing. So we just want to clean our blade off first. And then we're going to come back in and we're just going to follow the edge. And it'll straighten it right up. And you may have to carve into it a little deeper to get it straight. And that's okay. Just be, mindful. Always start off with a good, sharp number 11 blade. I like them because they're pointed, so you can get into real tiny areas. And then if you notice your blade's not shaving, the way you want it to, switch it out, put another blade in. Don't, I don't throw my blades away because I use them for like that. I just broke the tip off the blade. But it's still usable. Now, if I get in any tight areas, I'll have to change blades and come back. So we'll take a look at this once I get this all cleaned up here real quick. Out of frame, out of sight, out of mind. But I know the back edge of the blade is still really sharp. So there we go. Here's where you can see it. Now you can see I got an edge on the outside here, this inside corner. So I'll take care of that real quick. And it doesn't take nothing, guys. I mean, I'm sure you're all aware of this. I'm not really, telling you anything new. So then we'll just repeat the process for the other side real quick. And like I said, this is just overall for, a nice clean look. There's a little mold line on the back side of that. So we'll shave that just a hair, and we'll get in there with a stick. And sorry about the bouncing again. Getting used to this new rig. It's a lot better viewing this way, overall. It's hard to find and stay in frame, and it's lower than I'd like, so I'm going to have to change some things around on that. We've got another frame rail right here that is wonky, so we'll shave down that on both sides and clean it up. Like I said, sometimes it's a little thicker. You have to really kind of carve into it to. But I always keep my blade at an angle. Like I said, again, about a 30-degree angle, just enough where the blade slides. We're not trying to change the shape of it unless it requires it, and then you may have to get vertical and cut that way. But these rails are they're steel, so they're not a wonky shape. They're nice, true, and square. And we want our parts that we're working on to be the same as if it was a real van. Okay, so that's pretty much ready for sanding. Look across our back here, we're good. That's just sanding. Now, anytime you got pegs up here on top, you want to be really careful to cut those off, or you're going to have to, drill it out and pin it and put new ones in. And now here's a part that I didn't see. I'm glad I caught it. Is right here. You can see that mold line right there. We want to get rid of that too, and it'll be it's on the other side as well. So we'll get it up here, and you can see what I'm talking about. I'll just keep my blade at a little bit of an angle. Make sure I'm shaving, not cutting yet. You don't ever want to cut. Sorry about the bouncing. You don't ever cut. We're gonna go lower. Cut into it unless you absolutely have to, because the more you cut into it, the more sanding is going to be required to clean it all up. And right now we're just kind of blending, so to speak. And I just repeat the same thing over here, keeping that blade at a little bit of an angle so it's shaving more than it is cutting. Looks like it's cutting, but it's not, guys. Trust me, it's just shaving the surface. And I just cut my finger, so there's that. So I do for you guys, blood, sweat, and tears. Now the tips of our frame are a little flashy too, so we'll have to come in and we'll clean our blade off. Whoops, and our blade just fell out. That's never good. That's another thing, guys. If it's a little tip, these cheaper knives, they have a tendency to come loose. The blades do, and if you're really putting pressure on it, you could cause a really bad injury. So always be checking your knife blades. Make sure they're in there good and secure before you go putting a lot of pressure or force against it and take a chance of hurting yourself or somebody else that's sitting close to you. But these are the same way, guys. I just come around the edges, shave them, because again, we're going to come over this with sandpaper or sanding stick, and we got one that's a little protruded in there, so we do have to bite into that a little bit more. But remember, you just want to keep part of your blade like flat here, but yet where you can carve into up here where it was protruding in right here. It's jumping all over the place. It just doesn't want to focus. There we go. But we got that, and now we just want to come across the top, clean that up, and we'll shape that a little bit with sanding stick to make everything a lot better. And this side is kind of the same way. I'm going to just get in here real quick. All right. Like I said, don't be scared to carve. You know, a lot of guys will use the backside of the blade and scrape, and you can do that too. But I actually like to run my blade flat against the surface and then tilt the blade up a little bit and come in and kind of let it take what it wants to take, reminding using the flat side of the frame as a guide. That way you don't get into it too deep. Now you may make a little hit skip marks like I just did, but when you sand, that'll sand out really easy. At least I found that it has. This A-frame's got the same thing. There we go. Excuse me. Both sides. And we'll address that now. We got one here. We got to get into it a little deeper than I'd like to, but there we go. That one kind of raised really good. And back. And it's always better to like get in here and then lift the blade and pop it loose than it is trying to just keep cutting and not get what you're after. And you know, if you do cut too deep, try to carve on it a little bit more and smooth it out, and then come back in with sandpaper and clean it up. You know, I have many times gone too deep and taken a chunk out. Well, if it's a show rod or something like that, then you'd want to come back and put a little putty in there and sand it down to fill in your mistake. I'm not going to bore you with the sanding on the frame. We will do that off camera. I just would eat up too much time, because I'll spend 15-20 minutes sanding on this and getting everything, you know, as smooth as possible. But you know, after we're done with that, it'll be ready to be washed. We'll let it air dry on this piece, and then we'll come in and we'll be ready to prime it, and we can do our sub-assemblies. I usually, rear suspension, I put all that in. Front suspension, I'll put it in, and then I paint it all as one piece. I find it just easier. Now, if I'm modifying something or it's specific to something, I may keep the pieces separate, but in this case, it's not, so we don't have to worry about it. Now, if you look real close, you can see that flashing edge around there. We do want to clean that up, even though we're not really going to see the interior too well. This is all about fitment, and this piece is like a key, so it goes to the floor pan and goes to the firewall. So we want it to fit really good. That way it holds everything how it's supposed to be. Because you can't get inside there and add this piece once it's in. You know, it just barely lines up. There's a little, I don't know if you guys can see it or not. There's a little edge all the way around here. It's like your gluing point. So you don't want to put glue way out here or down in here or anything like that. You can always come back in with Mia Thin Set and hit underneath and add a bead or whatever, but it's pretty prominent. So our first thing is to see how well this fits, and it doesn't fit exact, so we know, you know, we're going to have to kind of put some glue down there and set it where we want it, and then leave it, let it tack up real good, and then we can come back. So our first goal is the doghouse, is we're just going to get our knife on an angle and shave that edge a little bit, get rid of the flash, and it's also kind of, it's toothing it up a little bit. The glue will bind a little better. You could of course just sand this off, but I find it rewarding just to sit here and, you know, chisel it off, shave it off, whatever you want to call it. And just be mindful of your shapes. Like this edge right here is rounded. It's not, you know, a 45-degree angle. Even though it is 45, it's the points are rounded, so I don't want to take that roundedness away. So then I may come back and just scrape a little bit. And down here on the side, I got little nubs sticking out. So I want to hit that, and I'll come back and I'll sand the rest of it smooth. So this, that looks pretty good, but we'll address this now while we're on here. Is I use the gray side of the sanding stick, and I'm just going to smooth up kind of what I just scraped off. And by doing this, it's toothing the surface, so the glue is going to bond a little better. should never come apart. And you can see my little, that's where it was attached to the sprue. We just want to take that out. Just sand on it until you get it where you want it and how you want it. And then I'll hit the flat area. There we go. I'll hit this side. None of this, I don't believe, will be seen. Maybe underneath, I don't know. But we can always just get in here and, like I said, you can use a chisel blade. You can use a number 11. Just all on how careful you are of the detail that's around it. You don't want to hack through it. And if I got it like that, then I can come in here with the gray sandpaper and hit that and take the majority of it out. Black side if I need to. In this case I am. And there we go. You know, it's still visible a little bit, but from underneath the van you're not going to see that. Even if it was visible, the engine and transmission would cover it. But I still like to sand them off because they do protrude out, and just that little bump could be enough where something doesn't fit right. So it's worth taking the time just to flatten stuff out. There we go. So what we'll do now is, we know this is going to sit flat on here. We'll want to get this piece glued in place first. And as you can see, like this point right here where my thumb is, we don't want this to stick out past here, because the firewall comes up at an angle and then goes straight up. So we want it to follow that angle. So we don't, when we're gluing it, we want to make sure we kind of hold it and put it right there. That way nothing happens to it. So let me find my thin set. There we go. It's over here. Again, you know, good old Tamiya thin set. I like this because it binds the plastic. And it, you know, it tracks around the groove. So now you can see this side is a little off, so we want to straighten it up about right there. Yep. Now I can come back in and be liberal with the glue. And it's not moving around on me, so I know it's already kind of binded or bonded, however you want to say it. And yeah, there we go. We got that piece in. And we want it to kind of tack up really good. We don't want to, you know, play hell. So then what I like to do is come back in here. Add a little bead around the inner perimeter of the doghouse. It just helps. I think they call it capillary action. I don't care what it's called. I love the way it works. It keeps you moving. You don't have to sit there like the old orange tubes of glue and wait for it to, you know, set up. And you can wipe off excess and then just lightly sand it, and you'll get rid of any glue marks or anything like that. But yeah, so we got that in. We can look and we can see we line up perfect. So we shouldn't have any issues putting our firewall in. Now, if you look here, we got some tabs. We got to clean up all this. And it's mainly just around the edges. We got some pin marks in the wheel wells. We can address those. Down the sides here where my finger is. But we want that doghouse to set up for a second. So let's set that to the side for a minute. And we're going to look at our firewall. And we can see we got to clean it up. So now's the perfect time. I just come in with my blade, a little bit of an angle, and shave everything. I know I keep getting out of screen, guys. I got to work on my filming here. And sometimes it looks like you're just taking off the minimum, but you'll find later on that you actually took off too much because it was just the way it was in the mold, which is fine. You know, it's a lesson learned, and sometimes it may be too late to come back and clean it up. You may still be able to do that, kind of like I'm doing here. There we go. Actually, that worked out good. But we know this is going to go, you know, this way. We can see the interior detail. We got a little pin mark to clean up here, and one to clean up over here. Get to focus. There we go. So, you know, we're waiting and we're working, and this is an innie, as I call it. It's not an outie, and it does go over top of detail. So we just want to be very careful shaving it and not taking the detail away or cutting too deep into the detail that it makes it distorted. So we'll switch to our blue, and we'll just kind of use the dark blue for right now because it's, like I said, it's an innie, so it's going to be deeper. And we will flock this. Like I said, regardless, I know, you know, nobody's hardly going to be able to see it, but I know it's there, so I want to clean it up as much as possible. And that's not bad, you know, for a thing. And I want to run around, use the light blue on the inside edge where the doghouse is going to glue to. It's just kind of toothing up the plastic. And if it's not enough, switch to the blue side. That's going to help that glue bind and bond the plastic. Same way right here, we'll hit this just a little bit. We're not looking for perfection. Just trying to take some of that pen mark away where it won't show up once we flock. And that's actually pretty good. Everything else is pretty prominent, so we don't have to worry about that because these will get painted like a satin color to resemble like a vinyl mat built into the floorboard. So, you know, it's messy, but yet it's rewarding. So we'll clean this up real quick. We're set up enough that it's not going to matter. And the same way, just around your edges, just tilt that blade a hair and kind of shave away. Don't be scared to, you know, take those edges off. It looks, you know, the main reason for doing it is at the end of the day, it looks a lot better. You can even lay it down here on the table and just cut it off. And then you can come back and sand it. You got a guideline to go by. There we go. Same way with this. And I know right here, it's right up against the body panel, so you're not going to see, so I can actually shave that off and square it up. Back here. There we go. Back here. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. So, same thing. We'll sand this up off camera. Sanding's boring. You know, a little piece like this, it's not bad. But now we want to see how well our firewall is going to fit. And, you know, guys, these aren't... It's kind of keyed if you see it, like, getting too close. It's keyed right there. You know, it's offset, so we know this is going to go up underneath the floor pan. And we want to be on that side of the little, if you look up here, there's little keys on top of the fender wells. We want to be underneath and on the back side of those. I believe. Or maybe yeah, we want to be on the back side. That way that seam is tighter. So we fit really good and tight. Or as tight as we can get. Once this is flocked and everything, that's all. These little gaps here you're not going to see. So we flip it over now, take a look at it again. Make sure we're not supposed to go this way, which we're not because it's not wide enough. Fits like a glove there. So I'm confident in taking a little thin set, putting it in there, and then pushing that back. And then here's where I can kind of really lay it in there. I left a fingerprint, so we'll have to lightly sand right here to get rid of my fingerprint. And you can even let this set up for a few minutes. Keeping in mind, you got a contact point up here where I'm out of frame, right in there. So I'll put a little glue in there, just so it binds, and then I'll come back and I'll put a little pressure on it. There we go. And we'll come back here on the back side and we'll do the same thing. And we'll put some down in here. Now we can come up here and repeat the process. Remember, it's got that capillary action, so you don't have to go all the way around. It'll find its way. And if you do this while it's super wet, it'll actually separate the glue after you've binded it. So we want to be mindful of that. The other side, I want to get some glue in there. Alright, so you guys can kind of see. Got that piece in there. Now we got a little bit more of a gap than I like here, so we'll put a little pressure there. And that closes that in. And we'll hold it there for a few minutes. Put a little more glue down in there. That'll help. And we'll reach underneath here, and while we're waiting, and put some glue there. Alright, so there. So we got some sub-assemblies done there. We got everything closed up as best we can. This little gap here, I could put pressure on those fender wells. But this side has a little bit of a gap. Get to where you can see there. A little bit of gap there, and we want to keep the same here so we know it fits up inside the body well. Now after this dries, we will definitely test fit it, because we want to, before we put any paint or anything on it, make sure if we got to pop something loose that we do it at the right time, not at the wrong time. But yeah, we'll get this all sanded up a little bit. I got a little bit of a burr over here. There we go. And we'll see if we need to incorporate anything else in here. We'll have to take a look at the instructions for that. Our seats, they won't go in now, but I know these holes are probably for the seats. We got some other holes back through here, probably for various different things. It could be for frame mounting. It's hard to say. So, but what we can do is take our frame, and we can see, yes, yes, and yes. We have two locator pins in the front and 2 in the back. That sets that frame right where it needs to be. But we're not worried about gluing the frame in yet, because it's going to be a separate piece. But we will glue all the suspension to the frame, and then we'll attach that after the fact. But we will paint the underside black. Once that all gets dried up, we've done this, so now all we need to do is sand. So I think we'll call this quits here. I'll get some next pieces ready, and I'll be right back. Okay guys, I'm back. We got some parts here. We got some frame rails. We have the upper control arms, or probably will be the lower control arms. So we need to get those off the old sprue here. So we just want to go find the edge. Get it here in frame so you can see. So we got an edge to go by, and that's where we will cut it loose. We will sand our edges. So we got those two pieces. We can set to the side over here. Our control arms. We'll flip this over so we can get the edge of the control arm. And we'll reference our instructions to see which way these go on. There's our radiator cowl or radiator. I'm not sure what this piece is, but it came right off, so we'll just set it to the side in case we do need it. Set our A-frames over here, because like I said, all that will have to be cleaned up, and we will do that off camera. We have our trailer hitch. We want to clean up a little bit now. It's going to need quite a bit of cleaning up. You can kind of see the edges are ragged, but we'll clean up nice. So we'll set that here with our parts. We have some more parts here. This may very well be due to the frame. So when I get them like that, I like to take trusty sprue cutters, and we're going to cut off the excess. We'll throw that to the side, and we're just going to take this whole shebang and set it over here with that stuff. We also have our factory exhaust, which we will not use, but we're going to leave on here for now. We do have our dashboard. I like to leave some extra on there on one piece, and then get flat and cut the other one off. And you see how we got that. So we got some little sanding to do here. We'll solve this little piece off right here, and then we'll sand it, clean out the where the steering column goes, clean all the flashing off, and then we can get a little in depth in that. So we'll set that back here because that is an interior piece. The wheel backs we're going to set out of the way. Now we got more. Here's some more frame pieces, so we can get in here and we'll clip these off. Make sure when you're cutting you flip your sprues where the bottom part of the jaw is up against the part, so you get a flat cut. We got our leaf springs here. For now, I will leave those attached to that piece of sprue like that and set them to the side. Same way with these wheel backs, we'll just set them up here out of the way. We've got a shock here, so that means we got a loose shock, so we'll set that there. We've got some kind of canister, some part here, I don't know what it is, but right here we have our spindles. And we got our diff, so we want to cut our diff off as close as we can. That way all we got to do is a little sanding. And we're going to get that glued up here real quick, and we will probably call that, whoop, and then you drop it into the abyss. So there we go. We got our other piece cut. Our two pieces. I'm not for sure what these are, but we'll have to look and see. Like I said, I know we got two spindles here. So again, what I'd like to do is, we know the rest of this is interior and license plate frames we have here. We can set that back up and out of the way. Piece of our hitch, I'm sure. And we're going to leave all these on here. We can get rid of this extra piece of sprue kind of clean it up. So we'll set that over here with our parts. And then we've got a steering wheel, which same way. You're better off sawing these off. I'm just in a hurry here. There we go. It came off clean. We'll put that up there by the dash. These actually might be the spindles. I don't know. So we're going to clip those off and put them with our suspension parts, and we'll look at the instructions. We know that this is probably the, we got our spare tire cover. And we'll put our license plate frame on this and put our rusty rotor signature tag on that. Once we're done, we'll just set those up and out of the way. The custom seats we will take and set up out of the way. These are the headers that we might be using. I'm not for sure yet. Lakeside pipes. I do like lake style pipes. I just don't know if I want to use those on this or not. We might. So we'll put those there. And then we've got our hubs. And it looks like our pins, spindles. And then we got an axle here. I don't know if that's for what have you, but we'll find out. We got the numbers still on here. We can look it up and see what it is and where it goes. So we'll just leave those all on the sprue. So now we got that cleaned up or off. We're going to come back and we're just going to lightly shave. Not doing nothing crazy. Just cleaning up our openings, our edges. We do want a nice clean fit on this. And I always come back after it's put together and do any sanding or cleanup before I paint it or prime it or paint it. The opening's a little wonky, so we will straighten that up just a little bit. There we go. Even though the yoke would cover that once you put the drive shaft in. But we got a little bit of a edge there, just a little. It's amazing, guys, just how lightly you can just go with your knife and clean up your edges. You don't have to, you know, be mindful of these little pins. Let's see if that'll focus in for us. There we go, a little bit. You don't want to shave those little pins off right there. Those are your guide points to put this together. So you can also test fit it, see what you got, what the alignment's like. We do have some overhang here I don't like. So, but once we get it glued together, we'll carve that out to keep that all uniformed like it's supposed to. And then we can sand and we can fill in a little bit because that's not a real good fit like it should be. So let's loosen up our glue. We're going to get that capillary action going here. Get it in there. Give it a little squeeze. Make sure we're lined up out here on the end. We don't want offset hole. Make sure your pins are sitting in there. Sometimes you have to shave that pin, that little indicator pin down just a hair to get it to fit better, but I mean, honestly, it's just as easy as this. Now, I also like to go down on the inside of the differential tube because that capillary action, that glue will run down through there. And then I can reach over here. I can use a clamp right here. That always helps. Hold it, just make sure it doesn't shift it. And then I can come to the other side. Let me get another clamp ready. There we go. Get some glue down there because you can see how wonky that is now. Everything glued up really good. And then I can line it up. And then I can clamp this. Maybe, if it'll let me. It's not wanting to. There we go. Perfect. And then I can come up towards the front, which is right in here, and get some glue in there. And kind of use my fingers and mash it. Get some down on the inside. Remember, just you think you're putting it in there, it's not getting anywhere. It is. and I want to make that as tight as possible. Now, I could put another clamp on right here, but my fingers will suffice. But now we know by doing this, we got a little bit of work to do down here where my finger is and on the other side, because we had gaps. They may not be visible once this gets put in place, but I know it's there. So I'd rather make the differential look like it's solid. And I tell you what, I may go ahead and put a clamp on that. Let me grab one here. I quit dropping stuff. All right. And there. So now I also know in the back I can come back now. And this is just going to bind that seam, because that pressure from that clamp is pushing down. This will soften the plastic. And then all I got to do is come back through and sand a little bit the surface, and you won't be none the wiser. I think I've said it before, if you guys remember, there's a lot of guys that'll use a whole bottle of this and make what they call sprue goo, or the, I don't see it right now, but I got a bigger bottle that's something, forget what it's called, but you can cut up little pieces of sprue and put it down in a bottle with a really good lid, and add this stuff, and after a few days it'll get really gooey. This does the same thing. It's as long as you got pressure on it, it will ooze up out of there. Well, you want to let that dry. That way when you sand it, you don't have no seam line. Or if you do have a little bit of gap, you can put a little sprue goo down in there and let it dry, and then come back and sand all this gap out. Because there should be no overlap or gap in that. I mean, your diff fluid would leak out. If you're going to get realistic about it. And you can always come in here and clean up your axle holes. That way nothing sits wonky. So yeah, we got to let that dry now. We'll let it dry overnight. I think this being part 3, we'll hold off and we'll make part 4. We have some more suspension parts up here. We need to see, we got quite a bit. There's our steering column. So we can actually come in here and clip this right there. And we can come over here and we'll clip it above that number. So we know, this number is for this part, this number is for this part, and we can look and see what these are just by looking at the angle and design of them, where they go. But we'll put this with all of our suspension parts. That leaves us a couple more suspension parts over here, which we don't care about cutting that, and we don't care about cutting this because that's our drive shafts. And same way, we'll want to scrape the edges or shave them, sand them really good so we don't have no seam lines that are visible. Because you don't always pay attention when you go put your drive shafts in. You may put it where the seam line is visible, and that's kind of a no-no. If you're like me, I do a lot of scratch building of my drive shafts. I use aluminum tubing, so I'll cut the yoke off both ends, measure, and then install the yokes into the aluminum tubing, make my own drive shafts. And we very may well do that with this one, since it doesn't have a lot of detail that we're worried about underneath. We are going to be putting traction bars on the rear. I've got a set of 3D printed traction bars I've been waiting to use. So I'm going to dig those out between now and the next video, and we'll get those cleaned up. When we come back, we should have a knowledge of what everything is, where it goes, what we got to clean up on it to make it look right. This will be ready for some cleanup and sanding. And then we'll do some sub-assemblies to the frame, get this front suspension in, the rear suspension in. The traction bars will be last to go on, since it is an aftermarket, because we want to detail paint those really nice. And then we've got our engine. As you can see, we got our belt drive, we got our starter, distributor, which we will not be using this. So we'll have to get this 2 halves together and pre-drill for a aftermarket one. We'll get our intake cleaned up, get this put on, the oil pan, the heads, and then all as one, and then we'll come back and sand up everything, and then we'll get it in the booth with everything else and get it primed, and then we'll get it painted. I usually don't airbrush engines. It just depends. Like if it's body color or something like that, I would. But this one, we still may. I've been wanting to try out the dehydrator. So we may get this all put together and, get it painted. We have MCW enamel, Chevy engine orange. So we'll get that painted and we'll get it in the dehydrator and see how that works. We will paint the exhaust manifolds by hand or the headers, whichever one we go with. This will get painted the same. I'll have to come back and hand paint the belt, but we will clean up that belt edge. You can see it's thicker here, thinner here. No, it should be the same thickness all the way across. So we'll have to work on that a little bit. We can, while we're talking here, we can clip this off because we don't need it. That'll have to be sanded. Our water pump, same way, it'll go on. There's our coil. We will probably put that in place and drill that out and stick our wire down in the coil. We've got looks like our e-brake or something here. I'm not positive, but I'll look that up. So yeah, be looking forward to the next video. We'll get a better understanding of what all these parts are. We'll get what we need installed in the frame, and then we can start installing our chassis, our suspension front and rear, and then our leaf springs. We do have quite a bit of work to do on these. We got an injection pin mark here. Same way on the other side. We'll need to sand these valleys out a little bit so it gets a really good fit on the diff. And make a place where we're going to install our traction bars so those fit right. Better to do it now than already have this all painted and then have to mess up the paint. Yeah, and we can even come back. We can have bolt detail here and on the other side. You can see there's a mold line running down the center, so we want to clean that up. Even though that part wouldn't be seen, but the other side has it too. So we got to get in here and clean this up. Let me twist this a little bit. You can see the mold line here and here. So we're definitely going to want to clean that up. So yeah, and that'll give a day or two for this stuff to dry. Let me get this video edited and we'll get it uploaded. I got to find the other shock. I've not seen it yet. There it is. Found it. So we want to get that over here by this one. So we have those. Show you what guys I'm talking about. These shocks here. I believe these are the rear shocks. We might try to do something with those a little bit to improve them. Don't know yet. We'll see. Chances are we'll probably just clean them up really good and detail paint them and they'll get installed. Back in this time, Monroe was really popular. So it had been a blue shock. And that's probably what we'll roll with front and rear. It's got Monroes all the way around. And then the brackets on these, we'll get those painted up, probably black. So yeah, just key details and to the nature of the era. I'm just cleaning out some grooves here, guys. I saw some shavings down in my body lines. I'm trying to keep everything kind of clean as I go. That way, all I got to do is just a final one. But I am real happy with this. I don't like the fact that I had to come back and recarve this. Had to carve all the way around the back. We still need to address this back here to blend this in a little better. Come down through here and clean this up and get in there and sand and get the excess, dust out of that. We want it to blend. But as far as door lines, all these body lines, these all came out really nice. We got a nice lip around here. We still need to clean it up a little bit. It's a little jagged. But our sunroof came out really nice. We don't want to take any more material away because then we'll have too big of a gap. We still have a little bit of gap here and a little bit of gap here, but once it's all painted, that's all going to kind of blend in and it's not going to be noticeable. We do have some light sanding to do right here. You can see that mark. And over here on the outside and on the bottom lip. But overall, the body's coming out really good. We will have to pick an interior color here before long. I hate using the same colors over and over and over again. And I don't like to be unrealistical when it comes to interior colors. I mean, I could easily just use that darker turquoise and paint the interior, but that's not very, for a leather look or pleather, whatever you want to call it, it's not very feasible. It wouldn't be very accurate, in my opinion. So with the colors we're using, we may use a tan, some sorts along there, maybe brown, kind of mix it up. We may go with an all brown interior or a two-tone again. I don't like I said, repeating things, but what's going to go good with silver, a greenish turquoise, a blues, a darker turquoise, what shades would coincide with that is kind of what you got to look at. So, or at least what I look for. And you can see on here, we do have a little bit of cleaning up to do on this, because we'll have our coil spring sitting down in here. This won't be as visible as much, but we don't want that looking that way anyways. And then just kind of go around our edges. So yeah, this is part 3. Part 4 will be cleaning up all these parts. And that was somebody trying to come into my room. We'll get these parts all cleaned up, and they'll be ready, and we can get into the sub-assemblies. So till then, guys, thanks for watching. Leave your comments down below. Thank you to all my past, present, future subscribers. Hit that bell notification. You'll know when these segments are coming out for this build. You'll get to watch, pretty much every little step of the way. What I do, how I overcome something, aftermarket parts that I'll be using, so on and so forth. There was something I was going to say. Oh, by the way, you guys are asking, the saw blades, the aftermarket ones I buy for the Tamiya knife holder is that Man Wan. So I'm sure they're Asian, but these are great blades. I got this off of Amazon. So it's a great little saw. You get like 3 different saw blades styles. One's a little thicker. This one's really flexible and thin, gets in really tight areas or really fine areas you need to cut. And then, just pick you up a Tamiya saw blade holder, because these are really stout. They work very well. But these blades fit in there very nice, and they very functional. So there is that. And then, good set of tweezers. These aren't off-brand, but, these are Vice style. They'll actually hold the part for you while you're painting it or putting it in place. I do need to get some different sizes of these, because I really like them. We're just rambling. So, as always, down below, you can leave your comments, what you think, any ideas, something you'd like to see incorporated into it. Now's the time to speak up. Thumbs up, thumbs down, all that stuff. Hobby Nut Models link is always down below. You hit that, go get you one of these great kits. Guys, truly, even though there's quite a bit of a little cleanup to do, it's still a great kit, and everything's fitting together really, really well. So I highly recommend this kit, and you can find your copy down there at that link. Check out Ryan Jones's website. Always coming out with new stuff. We do have some new stuff coming to the channel. We will review, as in some stuff coming from Mark. We will review once it gets here, and you may see the video on that before you see this. It just all depends on how things come to me. So yeah, I'm having fun with this. It's a challenge working with a camera at a different angle like this. Actually working on something as I'm filming. I do like the fact of talking as I'm doing it versus a voiceover type thing. And yeah, I mean, the van part should go really smooth as far as, being assembled. The chassis will be a rolling chassis before we really get to any one particular thing. And pretty much primarily done. The key will be, once we get into paint for the body and the boat body and all that. So again, guys, thank you. I appreciate all of you. We'll see you on the next one. This is Rusty Rotor. I'm out.